let me just start off by briefly introducing myself. I think most of you probably know who I am because I only advertised this through my own channels, but just in case, I'm Kristen Addis with Be My Travel Muse. I have one of the most widely read female travel blogs in the English-speaking space, and as you can see, this is a screenshot of my homepage, and I'm all about traveling solo and traveling adventurously. So this is going to be a very intimate look at the SEO strategies that I use for my website, and I'm going to show you screen grabs of a bunch of the back end as well. So I truly left nothing out of this webinar, and my hope is that you get some really good stuff out of it. Again, this isn't going to cover super basic stuff, so this assumes that you already have a familiarity with SEO and you already know some of the terms that I'm going to talk about. And again, we're going to open this up for a Q&A when I'm all done. And also just to let you know, I'm going to be sharing a program that I'm starting in April with you guys. This isn't going to be a salesy webinar at all. This is purely going to be informational, but I am going to let you know about something exciting that I'm working on at the end. So this is my Google Analytics. And as you can see, it is for a 30-day period. It's not all the way up until yesterday because I was doing this during a layover, but you can see it is pretty up to date. So I had just over 400,000 unique visitors last month, and they viewed almost 670,000 pages. So not too shabby. I'm very happy with that. And maybe you're wondering how much of that is from Google. You can see actually a big chunk of it is. So organic search makes up the vast majority of my traffic, you guys, and that's why SEO is so important. And it might be surprising, I don't know if it surprises you or not, that social media is not a big driver of my traffic. As you can see, almost all of it is search engine optimization. Only 10% of it comes from social. And the vast majority of that is from Pinterest and I think TripAdvisor as well. So Instagram, really not a good driver of traffic. In fact, it's something that you should really think of as a standalone thing. You might have some crossover in terms of followers, but click-through and driving traffic to your blog, not a super helpful tool for that. So it's not just me who this is true for, though. So I brought up a few other top people who are in the blogging space. So I have the Blonde Abroad here, Nomadic Matt, the Planet D. These guys all have huge traffic, and as you can see, the vast majority of it is coming from search. I used SimilarWeb to pull this data. It's not the most accurate out there, but it is super helpful in terms of just getting a read on what someone's general traffic is and where the traffic sources are coming from. So I just showed you the back end of my analytics. If you were to look me up on SimilarWeb, they would actually be showing you far below my actual traffic. But just for the sake of showing you what these other sites look like, I just wanted to make it clear that SEO is very important. All of your favorite bloggers who are doing really well are probably getting most of their traffic from search engine optimization. So now let's talk about how this translates to money. So as you can see over here, these are my Mediavine payments. So I got almost $9,000 just from the ads on my website alone back in December 2019, so about a month and a week ago. And if you just look down here, you can see that I'm almost going to get 80% of my revenue share. So up until 5 million impressions, you're getting 75%. And I'm actually even closer to that number now than I was when I took this screen grab. So that is even going to bump up my income farther. My goal for 2020 is to hit the $10,000 mark just on Mediavine alone. Now, if you look at this, this is Get Your Guide, and it's basically a tour company. They contract with a whole bunch of companies all over the world, and I really like them because their pricing is just as good, if not better sometimes, than the company itself. So this is mostly my income from one blog post. Team Lab Borderless in Tokyo is a museum, and I wrote an article about it. And when I was looking at my graph, this is almost all from people buying tickets that are only about 25 bucks. So that's the power of just one article, you guys, over a quarter of earnings. And I didn't put all of my affiliates on here because we'd be here for way too long, but I just wanted to show you a few others. I don't have my Amazon on here, and frankly, I am trying to move away from Amazon because I think they're kind of evil. So I have my REI affiliate here, and that's what I got last quarter with them. So not bad for a new affiliate that I am working on. And then to the right here, you can see this is my travel insurance with World's Nomads. So that is my income for just 1 month. That's just December with them. And since it's AUD, that translates to probably about $1,000 US. So that's just for 1 month. And you guys, I don't pepper these links all over my blog. This is really only from a few different blog posts that I have it embedded in where it makes sense. And I'll talk about a little bit more later how to deal with affiliate links and make them work for you. So I set a goal for myself back in 2014 to reach the $10,000 per month passive income mark, and that seemed so far away back then. It seemed almost impossible, but it was sort of the carrot at the end of the stick that I was always yearning and reaching for. I started my blog back in September of 2012, so it took a little bit of time for me to get here, but it's really wonderful to be actually over the $10,000 passive income mark because that allows me to invest so much more in my business. And that is just one of the wonderful things about growing your reach and your blog through SEO. And my goal for 2020 is hopefully to increase that to 15, maybe even 20,000, just from the ads and the affiliates alone. And don't forget that when people come to your website, they're getting exposure to the products that you're going to create. Now, I don't recommend creating products right from the beginning if you're just starting out, because your focus should be on getting people to your website and creating content. But eventually, when you're an expert on something, you're going to want to create products around it. So I have my books, I have my photography class, and I have my women's adventure tours. So when people visit my website off of Google, they're also getting exposure to these other things that I have. And it's a really good way for me to get new passionate readers. And I have found that a lot of the women who come on my tours have found me through Google. So that's pretty cool. So let's talk about how to make SEO work for you. Now, it's always changing. You always need to be up on the latest SEO information. So make sure that you're always following the news as it pertains to search engine optimization. But with that in mind, I recommend that this is how you go about it. And when I was designing this, it seemed a lot less clunky and cooler, but I could see now how it looks kind of weird. But anyway, year one, I would just focus on creating content and go ahead and add affiliate links where they naturally fit as early as you want to. I wrote a Southeast Asia packing list on month 4 of my blogging journey. And that ended up being eventually one of my most popular posts for years. So I made thousands and thousands of dollars off of that one post alone that I wrote back before really anyone was even reading my blog. So just because I didn't have the audience back then doesn't mean that I couldn't monetize it later. So keep that in mind, that there are going to be opportunities for you to at least lay the groundwork early on. Now, following year one, you really want to establish yourself as an authority in your niche and build links back to your content. And we're going to talk about niche as we go with this webinar, because I think there are a lot of misconceptions over having a niche and building one. And yes, I know it's niche, but my North American accent, I just have to say niche. So, but we will talk a lot more about the niche as we progress with this webinar. So if that's something you've been struggling with, I'm here to help. And then following becoming an authority on a certain topic, then you can branch out a little bit more. And that's why I'm saying in year 4+, you become an expert in multiple topics, and then you can cover them all fully and completely. So definitely whittle it down and focus a lot more narrowly in the beginning, and then you can branch out. Picking a niche doesn't mean never talking about anything else. So here's how to kill it with search engine optimization. First, we need to think about what you can realistically rank for. So let's consider the example of solo female travel. Honestly, that is super broad, so you're probably not going to be able to rank for that right away. It's a very high competition keyword, and I'm going to show you the keyword research tool later. So if you were to plug this into that one, you're going to see that it is a super high competition keyword and not something that's easy to rank for. And it's very general. There's lots of people already out there covering this topic. So what can you do instead? There are plenty of alternatives. You might be a solo female traveler, but there's another aspect to you that other people are going to match. So maybe you're a solo female traveler who's in her 50s or older, or maybe 40s. Anyway, there's a lot of women who are in that same bucket, and they're going to want to have advice that is specific to them from you. And honestly, I see a huge opportunity in this space because a lot of the blogs out there that are for women who are in their 40s, 50s, and beyond aren't very well designed or easy to use, and they don't shout to me right when I arrive at them, hey, this is for women who are in this certain age range. So if you can sort of take that and run with it, you're going to do very well. Same if you pick a region, for example, like solo female travel in Mexico, solo female travel for Asian American women, etc. Get specific. So my strategy early on was actually laser focusing on Southeast Asia. Solo female travel wasn't even something that I was trying to target early on because I thought that it was already pretty saturated in that market, and I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to rank for it and that other people had already sort of taken it. But you know, eventually, obviously, I ended up going all in on it, and but I just wanted to point out that it actually wasn't my intention early on. But I did focus on off the beaten path and adventurous travel, and now I'm able to rank for all of these topics. So I traveled for 2 years in Southeast Asia, and that is how I really established myself as an authority in that region early on with Google. So now that I did so much specificity, it's easier for me to be more general now than it used to be. So in the beginning, my best ranking posts were super specific, and they got me lots of backlinks because it answered a very specific question so well. So a lot of people naturally would link to that post if they wanted to be helpful in a blog post that they were writing. And we'll talk more about those links later on in this webinar. But just suffice to say that if you write the end-all be-all resource on something specific, you're naturally going to get a lot of organic backlinks just because it's such a great resource that you're putting out there. So now that I'm an authority on these topics, I can go for higher competition keywords. So let's do a little bit of a deep dive. This is again my analytics, and these are my top 30 posts. And I put little red dots to all of the ones that have to do with Southeast Asia, and then I put a box around all of the ones that have to do with the Philippines. Now, the cheapest destinations to travel to is a super high competition keyword. I would not have been able to rank for that right away, but I've been able to over the last couple of years, and you better believe that I am interlinking to all of my Philippines content in that post because the Philippines is obviously a cheap destination to travel to. So it is always a good idea to be plugging all of these posts sort of into each other by interlinking. And you probably learned about that during your SEO learning, so I'm not going to go deep into what that means, but here we have a very general term, where to go in the Philippines, and also the most beautiful places in the Philippines. So those are going to be higher traffic keywords that I've been able to rank for. And then I get a lot more specific with the Siargao Island itinerary. A Siargao is an island in the Philippines. And then we go to Coron versus El Nido. That's even more specific. That's answering a question that people have. Maybe I want to go to this place, or maybe I want to go to this place. They're even on the same island. So when you can really specifically answer someone's question, that's a really good opportunity to rank there. And then I also have Coron island hopping. So that's a place within an island in the Philippines. So basically, it's a funnel. I have my parent topic, which is the Philippines itinerary. It's quite general. And then I whittle it down to, for example, Palawan Island. And then I might have an itinerary for that island. And then I might talk about things to do in Palawan. And then I get even more specific by talking about a place in Palawan. So Coron is within that island. And then there's little islands in Coron that you can hop around. And then I even get more specific by comparing two places that exist within Palawan. So as you can see, I go more general, and then I go even more specific. So how do you rank? Well, you really need to niche down. So I have my Southeast Asia specialty, and then I have the Philippines covered almost entirely. That's the places basically that tourists would go. I mean, there's thousands of islands in the Philippines, so I'm not trying to claim that I've written everything there is to know about it, but I've gone from the broad down to the tiny details. So anyone who lands on my site wanting to know about the Philippines really never needs to leave, because I've answered almost every question that they could have about it, and that is by design. So if you're just starting out, you need to niche down more, and then more, and then more. So my very first post was about a certain volcano in Indonesia that has blue flames. It's called Kawah Ijen on Java. And as you can see, I posted that in 2013, and it was my #1 post for quite a few years. I was ranking #1 for Kawah Ijen without a tour, and then I was just ranking #1 for Kawah Ijen. And this place really exploded in popularity. So I didn't know back when I wrote this that it would become my #1 post, and a lot of SEO, frankly, is experimentation and waiting. But it did eventually become my #1 post, and as you can see, I had 168 comments on it. And it's all about how to do it without a tour. So this is information that just didn't exist before I wrote it. And I ended up getting tons of backlinks to this post, even though I was a relatively new blogger, because it was good information and it answered a question very specifically. So when I talk about niching down, I'm not telling you that you need to have a gimmick or have a theme that you never deviate from. When I talk about niching down, I mean getting very, very specific. So I want to show you some examples of niche sites. This is by Sylvia of Heart My Backpack. And as you can see, she didn't necessarily have her niche figured out right from the beginning, and that's totally okay. Experimenting in the beginning is a great thing to do, because then you can see what you're ranking for and what people know you for. But as you can see here, she has 80 countries later, my heart chose Norway. And her organic traffic is obviously a lot lower than mine, but she makes really good money and she doesn't need to work that hard. So here I have her top keywords listed, and I circled all the ones that have to do with Norway. So she's able to rank really well for these high competition keywords like Oslo, Norway. That's pretty incredible. And the reason why is because she's clearly telling Google, hey, I am an authority on this topic, and she's focusing on very specific things, but also going for those higher competition keywords as well and doing very well at it. I want to show you another niche site example from someone who is even much smaller. I discovered his blog when I was doing research in French Polynesia, and as you can see, he's really laser focused here on Pacific Islands. So I've underlined all the ones that have to do with Pacific Islands. And he even does this whole funnel thing as well. So you've got the top islands in French Polynesia, but then he's also writing specifically about Bora Bora in French Polynesia. And his traffic is even lower, and yet he's able to rank really well for these keywords. So in time, if he continues on this trend, he's going to do really well, especially if he continues to focus on specific things having to do with these Pacific Islands. So now I want to show you guys the SEO tool that I used to reach 300,000 unique visitors per month. I did switch to one called Ahrefs this year, so that's why I'm not showing you the 400,000 per month. That tool is thousands of dollars, so I'm not going to show you that one right now. I want to show you the one that I had been using for years that is $399 and that I think is really quite amazing, incredibly robust, and very much worth using. So over here to Swiss Made Marketing. And I'm going to include a link to this when we finish up this webinar, because I want to show you guys how you can sign up for it. And I would really, really, really appreciate if you use that link if you are going to sign up for this. It is an affiliate link, and so that gives me a little bit of a bonus for doing this webinar for you guys, so that would be much appreciated. Now you can go over here where you see this key plus, and everything is super easy to use. It's they've got descriptions for you when you hover over each thing, and they also have plenty of videos to show you how to use these tools. So if you end up signing up for it after this webinar, don't worry, you're going to be able to figure out how to use it, but I'm going to give you a little tutorial right now. I already ran these searches because they can take a little bit of time to pull the data, and I didn't want you just sitting here while I did it, but just know that you can click this key button and that's where you type in your keyword search. So I decided to type in something very general. I put in Palawan, Philippines, and it will pull all these terms, I mean hundreds of them. It's a super robust, amazing tool that have to do with that particular phrase. So you can see here, this is the niche bar. This is telling you what it thinks you'll be able to rank for, basically. So it's the monthly searches divided by the competition. Now, there are so many monthly searches for Puerto Princesa Underground River that you still are going to see good things in this bar, even though it's a very high competition keyword. So to give you sort of a look at what that means, let's open up the Palawan, Philippines one. So here it gives me a read on the top 10 posts that are in this niche. And this is what's going to show up on the first page of Google. Now, the important things for us to look at are the domain authority. And this is basically how much trust these domains have with Google. And the closer to 100 you get, the better. Now, as you can see, it would be really, really hard for me to rank for these keywords. The people who are in the top are just all very well-known blogs and websites. And you can see that my domain authority is 59, so I'm not going to be able to touch them. And it's also worth looking at the juice backlinks. So this is how many other websites are linking to these particular domains. And it would be very hard, given this backlink profile and this domain authority, for me to rank for this keyword. So let me go back and see what else I might be able to rank for. And I do recommend doing this before you visit a destination, because you might get a really good idea and it might actually inspire you to visit a certain place. So let's take the example of Port Barton in the Philippines. So this one gets 1,600 monthly searches. If I could rank number 1 for this, then I would have a really good chance of getting lots of traffic. Now, as we look at this, I can see that the top ones here, TripAdvisor, I wouldn't worry too much about that, and also Wikipedia, because quite often when people are searching for this information, what they really want is a guide or an itinerary, and so they might still be looking to click on a blog post. So the person who's ranking number 1 for this right now has a DA of 31. So that is a pretty good indicator to me that I would be able to rank for that. And now let's look at the juice backlinks. They don't have any actually to this post. So for me, that would mean that this keyword is ripe for the taking. And a lot of these other ones who are ranking, again, I can beat out all of them because my DA is 59. And it's not to say that you should never go for a keyword where your DA is not higher than the ones who you're going to be competing against. I've done that plenty of times and I've been able to rank number 1. But you're going to have more success if you look at opportunities like this. And if you're just starting out, obviously you don't have much of a DA at all. That's okay. You should still be looking at ways that you can rank though. You should still be going for these more specific lower competition keywords. In fact, I might go even more specific with these. I mean, hotels is usually a tough one to rank for because you've got all of the hotel ranking websites that are going to come up paying for the ad space. But you've got best beaches, that's still 590 monthly searches per month. Maybe there's going to be a Port Barton places to eat or things like that. San Vicente, I guess that's an airport. So as you do your keyword research, look for the things that you could potentially rank for. And that doesn't mean that you should shy away from doing anything that you obviously, from first glance can't rank for. But just know that you're going to have more success with these more specific keywords, obviously. Now let's say you already have a more specific keyword in mind and you want to type in solo female travel Europe to see what it comes back with in terms of the competition for that keyword. Now, because Swiss Made Marketing is trying to show you all of the possible things and you might get some really good ideas from this, it's going to show you things that are really specific and maybe not even relevant, like Europe trip. So if that's the case, go ahead and come over here and type in either solo female travel or maybe just Europe. And then you're going to see the key next to that very keyword that you put in. And this is a really good way to just only whittle it down to the terms having to do with what you typed in there. And you guys have gotten so many ideas off of Swiss Made Marketing. And anytime I visit a place, I do look at what I could potentially rank for because I want to see if maybe there's some keywords I hadn't thought of. And I'm telling you, By using a tool like this, you're going to get so far ahead of your competition, because too many people getting into the blogging game don't realize that things like this are out there. They don't have the mindset that they need to invest in their business, but this has been so worth it for me, obviously, because it's only $400 per year, which the first 2 years I used it, I split it with a friend, so it was only $200 for me. And yet I'm now making almost $10,000, over $10,000 a month in passive income from search engine optimization. And that is due to most of the groundwork that I've been laying for the past 8 years while I was using this tool. So this is going to be your secret weapon. So again, if you're going to sign up for that tool, I really would appreciate if you would use my affiliate link. So if you signed up for the email list for this webinar, it's going to be emailed to you after this, and I'm also going to place it in the Facebook group. And that would be super amazing. It will not cost you anything extra, and I would just really appreciate if you could support me that way. If you choose to split it with someone, one of you has to sign up, and then the other person will have to just Venmo or PayPal the other person, and then you guys are going to share a login. Maybe don't tell them I told you to do this. It's probably against their terms and conditions. And I would caution you against having more than 2 people signing in, because then I think they're going to realize something fishy is up, and it's not cool as well, because they're running a business. And anyway, so consider signing up for that tool. It's going to give you a huge leg up. So you have your keyword. Now what are you going to do? So here's how to write a bigger blog, a killer blog post. First, you really need to answer the question completely. And that's going to be by making sure that when the person comes to your website, they're getting everything they need to know once they're there. Sometimes I end up on blog posts that are just stuffed with words, not very information heavy, and I can tell it's just been thrown together and they're just trying to rank. And sometimes they're actually able to, but Google is getting better and better at, figuring out those blog posts and downgrading them. And my biggest pet peeve is when I go to a website and they tell me to, quote, do my research. You'd be surprised how many bloggers do that. And the thing is, I am doing my research because I am on their blog. So please don't do that. Please answer the question for them, because the last thing we want is for people to go back to Google to try to get their question answered. That sends them the wrong signal. And yes, they are recording that data. So make sure that you have all of the data in your post that people are going to need in order to basically get their question answered. So if you talk about a specific place or tour companies or tickets, go ahead and have that linked within your post so that people don't have to go back to Google to find out answers to additional questions. Also, if you're talking about museum times or bus timetables, make sure that you include that in your post as well, so that people, again, don't have to go back to Google to get additional questions answered. And make sure that you keep this information updated, because if someone follows your advice and it ends up being wrong, that's not good. Also, sources. So make sure that you're backing up your point and providing lots of details. The devil's in the details. So if you are ever maybe talking about coronavirus, for example, like I did in the post that went up on Be My Travel Muse today, I just wanted to present a lot of facts. So I was looking at the CDC website, I was looking at the World Health Organization, and that post has tons of links to relevant sources. And if you want to be a thought leader in your niche, then it's important that you're always backing it up. Think about it like a college term paper. You had to have links of authority. Even peer-reviewed journals are great to link to in your blog posts, just so that people can trust the information that you're providing. And when they come to love you and your opinion on things and how well you back it up, they're going to want to keep coming to you for the blog posts and for their joy reading year after year. And finally, if you're talking about an itinerary or a specific place, what better information to provide someone than a map with all of the places already plotted out? That way, all they have to do is open it in their phone, and then they can follow along. And the easier you make it for someone to have an enjoyable vacation, the more they're going to love you and recommend you to their friends and keep coming back to you for years. So write the piece that you would want to find and answer their questions so completely that they do not need to do any further research. So when it comes to writing a killer blog post, I know I just said that you need to answer their question fully and completely, but you really need to be succinct. Specificity pays way better dividends. So instead of writing a blog post about Paris, for example, which can fill a book, write a blog post about the best art museums in Paris. If I'm curious about the best art museums in Paris and I find your blog and you've got all of the information on the timetables, where to find the museums, the best things to see there, I'm going to use that as my reference, and I'm probably going to trust you enough to buy my tickets through you. And if you've got a ticket affiliate, then that's a great moneymaker for you. So remember that Google tends to favor posts that are no more than 2,000, maybe max 3,000 words in length, and you don't want it to be short either. So do what you need to do to answer the question, but that's why you shouldn't be writing big monster posts that have tens of thousands of words in them, because Google's not going to notice that, and as a reader, it's too overwhelming and it turns me off. Another thing that you really need to focus on is being of service. So I always say serve first. Don't treat your readers like a means to an end with tons of affiliate links and annoying pop-ups right away. And I actually want to show you an example of what I mean. I don't want to make anyone feel bad or put anyone down, but I don't actually know these guys, but I'm just bringing it up because this unfortunately is one of my bad examples. Sorry, just getting a quick drink of water. When I was running through this yesterday, I lost my voice and coughed 5 times, so I'm really glad that hasn't happened yet. So this post starts off just fine. I'm gonna X that out. Starts off just fine. We've got information about Kaku and Myanmar. So I was doing some research because I wanted to go to this place, and this is what I found, and I was super excited because yay, I found a blog post. It's got information about Kaku. You're telling me about the stupas, when it was built, blah, blah, blah. And then you tell me about getting to Kaku. First of all, that's not correct. It's not a 2.5-hour car journey, so not great to have information on there that's not true. And then it's a video about hippos. This is really honestly so confusing. And I know that it's an ad, but I don't know why it's here. And then the next thing you talk about is telling me to book a tour. So this is obviously an affiliate link. It's here twice. And then, I don't know, we go into SIM cards. So you want me to buy SIM cards here, and then you're telling me where to stay in Inley Lake. So I really don't feel like my question was ever answered. All you're telling me to do is book a tour. And you guys, the first time I visited this post, I didn't even get this far to exploring Kaku. Now they tell me about the place and how to explore it, but only after they served me with a whole bunch of affiliate links. So unfortunately, I clicked back to Google to get my question answered because it didn't get answered here. And if you're going to make someone scroll all the way down to get their question answered, trust me, they're not going to want to buy anything from you. This to me just screams, hey, you're a means to an end for us. Help us make money. So again, I don't know them, and I hope that I don't offend anyone with that, but I'm just trying to be constructive with the criticism here and to help you out. So here I want to show you an example of someone who does the affiliate linking really well. This is Nomadic Matt, I'm sure you know it. And this is how to travel on a budget in 2020. So here you can see that he interlinks all the time to his other blog posts, which is a great idea. It keeps people on your site and it helps with search engine optimization. So the first thing he tells me to do is change my mindset and come up with savings plans. That's great. These are easy wins. It keeps me reading. And then he has more resources that I can read here. These are not affiliate links. These are links to his other blog posts. And only once we get all the way down to score a flight deal does he actually, I'm pretty sure these are affiliate links here, but they're super relevant. He's suggesting programs that you can use to find flight deals. And then he talks about how to travel hack and get credit card points. Now, I guarantee you that he has affiliate links here on his posts about how to rack up credit card points, but he's already warmed me up. If this is my first time on Matt's website, I've already gotten all of this really good information. And by the time that I actually follow through to get the advice on how to travel hack, I'm much more likely to sign up for that credit card bonus because I've gotten good information. He's already earned my trust by providing really good advice for free. And then he asks me to trust him and book something through him. And as we go down, you'll see when he talks about the sharing economy, I'm sure this Airbnb and trusted house sitters and eat with, I'm sure these are all affiliate links, but again, they're extremely relevant to the post. So these are an example of a good way to put in affiliate links and a bad way. And I really think you make more money the way that Matt's doing it. So remember that you want to be helpful and of service, and then people will want to stick around and come back and recommend you to your friends. Their trust is invaluable, and if you break it, they might not return. So for me, I'm probably not going to use that first resource again because it was hard for me to use, it was confusing for me, and the confused mind says no. Another thing that a lot of blogs are missing these days because they're so hyper-focused on search engine optimization is that they're not that much fun to read. So make sure that you're adding in your unique writing style and especially your photography in your posts. People are going to show up for the info, but they're going to stay for your writing style and personality. So entice them to read by providing all of the info they could need, but making it really fun for them to read. And remember that it's really important to check your grammar. The writing needs to be really good. Yes, it does matter. And really, you just have to be better than the crappy blog post that's currently at #1. So if you do all of the things that I mentioned, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to be the best blog post out there, answering all of the facets of one question and then interlinking everything to a more general post so that if someone reaches you by following a very specific keyword, then they can read your more general post and become a fan of your blog. So you've written your blog post, you want to get it out there to the world, and so next you need to build them backlinks. So some really good ways to build backlinks are to guest blog. So that was my chief strategy in the very beginning of my blogging days, and it's still very important. I try to write for anyone whose blog is bigger than mine. And when you're first starting out, that'll be everyone. And the other great thing is when you're first starting out, you don't have a bunch of readers emailing you. You don't have a bunch of comments to respond to. You're not getting bombarded with emails from potential clients. So you've got lots of time to guest blog. So I would use your early days to be as prolific as possible, write really amazing blog posts. Make sure that you research who you're pitching to so that the blog post that you're suggesting to them is super relevant for their website and maybe fills a content gap for them. Make sure that you state right away that you are a blogger, that you're not a corporate entity looking to get a free backlink, because I get those emails every single day and I delete them. So you might want to even put in your subject line of your email, fellow blogger, won't waste your time, would love to write for you, something like that. That's an email that I would open, and I have let people guest blog on my website from time to time, and sometimes I even pay them if it's a really rich piece of content that took them a long time to write. So make sure that you're a real authority on the topic. You really need to have good photos, you guys. I mean stellar photos. I mean better than average. And that's going to be super important for your travel blog in general. Make photography a focus. Travel blogs are visual places, and I'm sure that, you know, Nomadic Matt maybe not be the best photographer out there, but every other travel blog I can think of that's on the top of their game has fantastic photos. You need to have good photography, and that's another way for you to rank, but I'm getting away from the point here, which is how to build backlinks. You can be a source for news articles. So there is something called Haro, Help a Reporter Out, that you can sign up for. And I religiously reply to these. I'm very succinct in my emails back to them. I really only probably get 1% to 3% of the ones that I pitch and try to get coverage from. But that means that I am getting a few links every year from someone like the Washington Post, Bustle, Reader's Digest, Forbes. These are super, super high value backlinks, and it's going to be worth so much more generally than the travel blogs out there can provide to you. So make sure that you are constantly looking for opportunities to be a source. YouTube is another really good opportunity for search engine optimization. It is owned by Google. So you can do some research on how to do better SEO for videos if you're really into YouTube. If you don't want to do video, that's fine. But if you think you might want to do it, Having your blog post linked in the description of your video and then having your video embedded in your blog post mutually helps with SEO. So I've definitely seen that beneficial on Be My Travel Muse. Also writing about newsworthy items. So an example is I interviewed Jessica Nabongo, who was the first Black woman to visit every country. And I didn't even realize that that was going to result in tons of backlinks for me. There was a little bit of controversy around her immediately following, and so I ended up with tons of backlinks from news outlets that were covering this. So I was actually pleasantly surprised by that, did not expect it. But when you're writing about things that are very of the moment, sometimes you can become a source just by putting good information out there. And then finally, you've got to write great content, as we've already talked about, because then people are going to organically, naturally want to link to you. I link to other really good resources when I'm writing my blog posts, and that's generally really good advice for you as well. So if you've written a really good piece of content, why wouldn't someone link back to you? Now let's talk about ways not to build backlinks. So link swaps are something that a lot of bloggers do. And while I don't think it's the worst possible thing, I do think it's really going to hurt people in the long run who do it all the time. So a lot of people will do it to build up a bunch of backlinks to a blog post that they've written. And for now, it works kind of with Google. But I have seen a lot of techniques like this come and go. It's not organic. And Google is always figuring out ways to penalize people for doing inorganic things. And I've seen a lot of blogs shoot up really fast in popularity and then fall just as quickly during my blogging lifetime because they were cheating the system like this. So again, I don't think it's the worst idea to do sometimes, but don't rely on this as your backlink strategy. I think it will come back to bite you in the end. Obviously, don't buy backlinks, that's even worse, and don't sell them. So if a company comes to you offering you money to place one of their articles on your website, or even worse, doesn't offer you money and just offers you a free, high-quality article, just say no, it's not worth it. Don't write what everyone else is writing. If you are the 20th person to put out a Things to Do in Paris article, don't expect to build a lot of backlinks on that because it's already been talked about. So try to find a new, different, unique angle and try to get more specific again, like museums in Paris rather than Things to Do in Paris. And finally, I have seen some advice sort of in the 2015, 2016 SEO world where people would say, hey, if you find a website that is linking to some content that is similar to yours, go ahead and email that person and ask if they want to switch to your content instead. You guys, this is so annoying when people email asking me to place their link in my article. The answer is always no, and I think that this has just been done way too much. So don't expect people to be super receptive to that as a backlinking strategy. Let's talk, we're getting to the end actually of the webinar here, and I am going to open it up to Q&A after this for as long as you guys need. But let's just talk about a few little things, or big things actually, that have to do with affecting your rankings. So I touched on this a bit earlier, but do people bounce back to Google after they visit your website? You really don't want them to bounce back to Google. So try to answer their question as best you can and do so early. Make it very clear early on that you're going to provide them with the answer to their question. Don't make them wait for it. And of course, the quality of the links pointing back to you. So again, a link from the Washington Post is going to be a lot more valuable than a link from a blog that started last year. I mean, it's not to say if someone organically links to me from a blog they started last year that I'm going to have a problem with that. That's great. But I'm just saying, if you're going to go chasing after links, try to build them from more reputable websites. And are the links pointing to you natural? So again, if you're doing a bunch of link swaps with a whole bunch of bloggers, I do believe if they don't already, Google's going to have a way of seeing how many times you mutually link to each other and how often the blog posts you have a link that points to another blog that also points back to you. I do think there are already programs out there that can tell you when that's going on. So if that already exists, you better believe that that's something that's going to be penalized eventually. How high are your images ranking? So getting images to rank on Google can be easier than getting blog posts to rank on Google. And I don't know about you, but if I'm Googling something like the most beautiful places in Thailand, I might head to images instead to get the answer to my question. And if you have really, really amazing photography on your blog, you're going to get a lot of people wanting to click on that image and following it back to your website. And that's going to help your Google rankings. So again, photography has been a major focus of mine from day one. And it's really important that your blog has amazing photos. If you want to succeed, you really need to give that some serious attention. And of course, site longevity. So it's super important that your site has built up trust with Google. So if you're brand new, you're not going to have that site longevity that's necessary. But blogging is a long game. SEO is a long game. You might write a post and see it rank immediately. You might write a post and only see it rank after 2 years. You never really know. And that's the crazy thing about search engine optimization in Google, is that a lot of it is experimentation, sort of educated guessing, and building up an audience and building up their trust is a long game. So just know it takes a little bit of time, but I've sort of found that once I got that burst, it didn't ever stop. So take heart, because if you stick with it, you will do well. So this is what we've already gone over. This has been the webinar, basically. Pick a clear niche that isn't saturated already. Again, I don't mean you need to have a gimmick or a theme that you're always going for, but you do need to have a topic that you can be an expert in. And then you need to conduct the keyword research to get ideas for topics that you can write on, write great posts with amazing photos, build links to those posts, and then profit.